Hello everyone, I'm DoD DarthNox. I'm a high elo player. I'm close to 1800 at the moment, and I've also been in the top 100 for a while now on the ladder. You may recognize me from my Gaia to Gaia 68 PM to 1600 elo challenge, and be sure to check that series on our YouTube channel. And today I'm going to be making a response video to Magic, one of the Magic's more recent videos. If you somehow don't know who Magic is, he is one of the most legendary original Age of Mythology players, and since Retold came out, he participated in most of the tournaments except the last big tournament, and he usually finished around the third place. So he is arguably the third best Age of Mythology retold competitive player. And so we are going to be responding to his video, and I'm going to be playing you a couple of minutes of his video so we can hear the point that I am going to be arguing with.
At the data. So what I did was we got a ton of data here. I looked at, instead of looking at all of these, I was looking at the average time somebody spends in an age, right? So the average time somebody spends in the archaic age, the classical age, the heroic age, and so on and so forth, right? Now, I did remove a couple patches because the sample size was very low. For example, this one right here, it was destroyed or deleted rather. And I think 18, this is an older patch, so I removed this as well. And I talked to Gerbot before he did it and he agreed. So I removed all of the stuff that I don't think is necessary, and I put an analysis category here. So this is the summarized data of that chart that you guys saw right there, okay? So what can we see here? We can see that the archaic age has remained kind of flat. There's no change, right? It was 219 second ages ago and it's 218 seconds now. Is there much of a change? No, not really. I think that's pretty much a flat curve, right? Whereas the classical age has gone up. You can see that it was 629 seconds somebody spends, and it progressively gotten longer and longer, right? So this is a very, very good statistic in my opinion. This is what is a fun game, right? So this went up. Heroic age, same thing. It went up in terms of how much time you spend. So once again, it's a good metric in my opinion, right? Why can't I get that arrow? It is what it is, right? It's, in my opinion, it's fun. Now the mythic age, the time that somebody spends in the mythic age has gone down. Now, is this really that important, how much time you spend there? I don't think so. I think this just means that maybe games are not as long. But you can see that the two most important metrics, the classical age time and the heroic age time, has gone up. This, in my opinion, contributes to a more enjoyable game, because what people were doing back in the day was they were going from age to age to age, and they were just trying to jump to mythic as fast as possible. Nobody spent time in classical, nobody spent time in heroic. Everyone just jumped straight to the mythic age. And there was a contingent of players, there was a faction of players that was saying everything was fine. You know, there's nothing wrong with jumping ages. I disagreed. I think this is way more enjoyable than just jumping ages, right? The strategy back then was, you know, you can play Egyptian, go straight to Thoth, Meteorite if your opponent is trying to attack you, so you'll kill his entire army. If he doesn't try to attack you, Meteor his TC or his base, and then you get Valley of the Kings, and you finish him off. That was essentially the game for the first like 3 months, right? This is also a problem because this made Egyptians look a lot stronger than they were, but they weren't that strong. They were just strong because people were abusing this tactic, right? This is a tactic. This is not, in my opinion, it's not real strategy, right? There's also other things like this, but essentially it was all age jumping, all just getting to your power spike. There was not much thinking on the spot, thinking on the fly, and that, in my opinion, contributed to an inferior game, right? It's a game of tactics rather than strategy, like I've said.
Okay, and that's it for the part of the video that I wanted to show you guys. And I do agree. I agree that classical age and heroic age should be more prevalent in the game. And these two ages should definitely last longer than they do, and we should have like we should have more win conditions in classical and heroic age compared to what we have now. However, I don't agree that the time spent in that the time that we are spending now in classical age and heroic age reflects that we are have more to do in classical and heroic age, because Magic's data doesn't take into account the change that happened over different patches. For example, on patch 18.333.118, the next thing happened. As you can see, this is the patch notes. All villager train time increased. So they all increased by 20%. So for for normal villager train time from 50 seconds went to 18 seconds. This makes it so that players have less resources or the same amount of time spent in a certain age, and so they make less units, they make less upgrades, and because you have less resources, you're able to do less stuff in that time. So because of that, I did some calculations myself, and this is the calculation. I compared total resources gathered from the patches before the change and after the change in the fortification patch, also known as patch 18.33318. I did my calculations using the Tantian citizen as an example, since I'm a Gaia main. And to simplify my calculations, I always assume that citizens are working from the moment that they are made. They have no walk time. You're not being pressured by any way, so you don't have any idle villager time. You also are making villagers only from one town center, because if we include if we took in the second town center as well, the calculation would be even further in favor with more resources, because the town center will be paying for itself much quicker because you're making villagers 20% faster. So this is to be the most generous as possible to the current patch. And I also accounted for the time that we are taking to go to the next stage. For example, to go to the classical age, you have 1 minute of time not making villagers in the archaic age, and also when you're going to heroic age, you have 75 seconds from the idle town center time where you're not making villagers. So I counted for all that. And as we can see from the table, at this very moment, in the two patches, in the archaic age, on average, its negligible was almost 2.5 seconds more spent in the archaic age, while we are spending almost 1 more minute in classical age, from 10 minutes and 25 seconds to 11 minutes and 20 seconds. And now for the calculations, we can see that we are leaving archaic age with almost 200 resources less than we did before, which is almost 3 units. And when we are looking at the resources gathered in the classical age, we can see that in the classical age we have gathered 300 resources less in the current patch compared to the patches before, even though we've been gathering for 1 whole minute longer. So that would mean that if we calculate it for the same interval, for example, if we didn't have the change of the villager train time, and we actually increased classical time spent in the time spent in classical, the difference would be like 2,000 more resources gathered in the classical age. But that's not what happened because of the fact that we are now making villagers slower. So we have less resources, even though we're spending more time in classical. In conclusion, players are simply compensating for the lack of resources from the smaller amount of villages that they have by spending more time in classical, and not because they have more things to do in classical. And you may say that even though you are making less units or getting less tax in classical, you may say that you're spending more time in it, so you can do more raids, maybe you can attack more stuff. But that's not true, because now the gold mines run out slower, everything runs out slower because you're gathering less, you're gathering resources more slowly, and the only win condition in classical age is the attack on the second gold mine, which is around 11 minutes, and most civilizations can already have past heroic age by minute 8 and already have a Migdol by 8:30 on theirs, or a palace on their second gold mine. So that's and with the fortification update, that second gold attack is a lot worse than it was before. And if you can't attack the second gold mine, then you might as well just grab your own second town center and go to heroic yourself. And we can see that at the pro level, which is higher than my own. 2 town center fast heroic has been the most common strategy out of all. There is no game, there are very few games where anyone has tried anything else and actually succeeded. Most of them fail. And this fact goes against what Magic says, that these patches in which direction the patches push the game in. When we look at the raw data, we can see that we are spending more in classical age. We are spending more time in classical age. But that doesn't mean that we are doing more stuff in classical. We are actually gathering 500 resources less in classical, so we are spending 500 resources less. We are making less units. And it's and we are, as he said before, we are still skipping ages. We are going to heroic, we're going to mythic age much quicker than, not much quicker by the amount of time that we are spending in those ages, by the amount of the resources that we are spending in those ages. So people are spending even less amount of resources on units in classical age or heroic age, and just going straight to the mythic age. So we are just skipping it slower than before because the gather rate is longer, but we are spending less resources on other stuff because the fortification upgrade made it so that you don't need to defend as hard with units as you did before. And that's pretty much it for the video. I'm really interested in your opinion. Do you guys share my opinion or someone else's? Make sure to leave a comment. Feel free to disagree or agree with me, and check out my 60 APM series, and check out Magic's video as well for the rest of his arguments that I do agree with. So that's about it, and see you guys next time.